Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
And as you've noticed, we are
in the same room!
Ah, and I love it. So, how are you?
I'm okay. That sounds... I always start with I'm okay.
It's okay to start with I'm fine.
Yeah. No, well, because things have been better, but I have 3 episodes to talk about tonight, so I'm gonna start with things that have happened since the last time we recorded. And
7 years ago.
7 years ago. Mm. I swear I've had the longest 3 weeks.
Same.
I got COVID.
I probably didn't.
I didn't for 4.5 years, so I was real mad when I did. And luckily I finally tested negative before all of the things were supposed to start. But, you know, I was getting ready for a bachelorette weekend and starting my new job. And then, and my sister coming to town and Courtney coming to town. And, it was really, like, not the time.
It really wasn't.
It was not. But my teeth hurt. I coughed for 2 days, and then I was fine. So,
your teeth don't hurt today.
No. I'm saying
like,
that was my process. That was my process of COVID. My teeth hurt for like an hour, which I'm only including because I've read other things that the newest variant involves teeth pain, which was very strange.
I will never know if I have it. My teeth hurt every day.
Well, that's the thing. My teeth hurt all of the time. And it felt like I had postnasal drip from a sinus infection, but I was in a hotel, and I always have allergic reactions to hotel air conditioning.
Yeah.
So I was negative before I knew I had it.
Right. Who's to know?
So
these are all everyday symptoms.
Everyday symptoms for me because I'm dying all of the time. Not to diminish anyone else's COVID experience, and like obviously some people have it, and like long COVID is a thing.
Oh,
and like
for sure, I've almost died twice. Like it's
for like I'm like not diminishing anyone's
literally.
Experience. But yeah, no, I've had ear infections that were more detrimental to my life.
Yeah, I
except for like emotionally, and so. So it's been a really long 2 weeks, and I haven't even gotten to the part of my life that was people.
The people part?
The people part. So, like, I'm just here. Also, we are starting recording 3 episodes at 10 o'clock at night, and I have to take Courtney to the airport at 4:30 in the morning, so,
And I haven't started packing. I did pack some of my stuff in Rachel's suitcase, though, yesterday, so it should be much easier for me to pack today than the last 3 times I did it recently. So
how are you?
Yeah. I've had a long 3 weeks as well. We recorded, and then I did like 72 hours of work a day because I knew I was going to be gone, and I had to still pay bills. Those are things that unfortunately go together. So I did a lot of that. Had a couple of meetings, super unfun things. I don't know, my meetings are fine. I like those people. But then I hopped on a plane.
Not at LAX.
Not to LAX, but to LGA. And got into New York City at 4 p.m. Went to get the last few things I need. Oh, my plane got delayed. Oh my God, I have not seen or no one has heard from me. I'm so sorry. I've had a very chaotic 3 weeks. Let me start over. So Debbie happened in the time
that's right.
since
There was
we've
a
spoken.
hurricane.
Yeah. And,
oh my God, right, because the last time we recorded was the day the tornado hit.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I know. So a couple of natural disasters obviously have happened since we've spoken. So you guys had the tornado here, and then like a few days later, I'm getting ready to leave, and so my flight's supposed to be at like 10 a.m. because I planned it in case anybody had to go to work, they could drop me off. And turns out Debbie was about to pummel Charlotte, so they're like, maybe don't fly through there. And the only option otherwise was to fly out at 5 a.m. from New Orleans. And I was like, oh, thank God. Rachel's mother-in-law, who is lovely, still drove me to the airport at 2:30 in the morning, which was very nice of her. Yeah. So I didn't sleep that night. So then I get into New York, and we're trying to get everything together. And then we go to Caitlin's gig at Craft and Caring, which is down in Midtown, in Murray Hill area. And we're there till 1 a.m. So I haven't slept for 40 hours. I literally was sitting there, and Brian, her partner's like talking to me, and I'm just like, I have no idea what you're saying. And I had one beer, and I was like, I think I'm drunk. I was like, I don't know. And I drank in 2 hours. It was like, wasn't even like I chugged a beer. Like, I had a beer in like 2 hours. I was like, I think I'm drunk. I can't use my brain. I don't know how it works anymore. And then I got up the next morning at 6 a.m. and drove 15 hours to Chicago. 13. It was 13 hours. So it was a really chaotic time for me in my life. But Debbie is a real Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
Needless to say. And otherwise, I haven't slept much since, but we're here.
We're here.
So I'll tell you more about that in the next go round. But I love Chicago, and I might move there one day. Who's to say?
You say that almost every time you go to a new city.
No. So I did mention that people are like, every time you go somewhere, you say this. And I'm like, no. I go places, and I'm like, I love this place. I can't wait to come back. Chicago, I'm like, I could live in this place. Like, it's chill enough. Like, which I spent most of my time in the suburbs. Like, yeah. I did not spend most of my time in the city.
That's fair.
And so, like, my friend lives 25-minute train right outside of the city, and we just parked in his neighborhood every day and took the train in. And then we stayed, like, 45 minutes out in the suburbs, which was just absolutely lovely. Yeah. And so it was not, like, it was a normal place, and then Chicago itself was not, it was bustling, but it wasn't the hustle and bustle of New York City. And the people were fine. There wasn't anything, no, like, positive or negative feelings about them. They were fine. But, like, everywhere else we've gone, like, I hate Nashville. I'm sorry, Nashville.
Oh, no. I was just telling Rachel last night that I hate cities like that. We were talking yesterday, me and Courtney and Rachel, about how I love Buffalo because in Buffalo you're a less than 30 minute drive from everything. Like, that's not true. Sometimes you have to go 45 minutes, but like, it's like 15 minutes to anywhere. And I can go 30 minutes in one direction and be at a rooftop bar, and 30 minutes in the opposite direction and be at a dairy farm. Like, it is the best of both worlds.
Right. So Nashville sucks. Austin sucks. I'm gonna just alienate all of the towns I hate. So sorry. Please don't stop listening to us. Austin doesn't suck. Austin, I wouldn't live there though. But I don't have any desire to live in Texas in general. Yeah. Much less Austin. So like all the other places I've gone, I'm like, I could go back. Like I'd go back to South by. I'd go back to Nashville for a conference. Like I don't like, but I
have a lot of desire to live literally anywhere other than where I live, despite the fact that I just said it was the greatest city in the world. But then I bought a house, so that's
right. So you can't do that.
Can't do that.
I don't have a home. I can live wherever I want. One pro.
The only positive about being homeless is that when you're not homeless anymore, who's to say where it's gonna be?
Right, but also you can just stay in everyone's house. And it's lovely. I was talking about, like, I stayed at a lot of people's houses in the past couple of months. And I got to Mary Kate's and was like, I can breathe. These people know me. They know the real me. They don't mind if I, like, disappear for 7 hours to, like, take a nap. Like, it's totally fine.
It's because I also do
Because she also does the same. The first day I was here for, like 3 hours. 2 hours. No, not even. Did you come take a nap before? It was after tea. You came. I got here.
Oh, yeah. I picked her up from the airport. We'll talk about this next week, but I picked her up from the airport. We did one thing, and granted, that one thing was like 3 hours.
It was an event.
We did an event, and then I immediately said, okay, I'm not going to take a nap.
Yeah, and I just like hung out with her family.
I got out of, the last couple of days I've been getting out of work and going somewhere else to take a nap so that I didn't feel guilty about the fact that Courtney was alone in my house.
She did. I never once felt guilty or bad about it, but she did. But I don't know if you saw, but I have some news for you if you haven't.
I haven't.
Because today, while you were at work, baby Charlie was born.
No! He's so precious!
I saved this all all day because I was like, Mary Kate's not gonna know it. I'm like, I don't think they've posted. Jamie just texted me. So one of our best friends, Caitlin and Jamie, just had their second baby, and I've been waiting on eggshells. And so I got to.
I asked her at 1:00 in the morning when baby Charlie was coming.
I was like, I think tomorrow, and then Jamie texted me this afternoon, and so congrats, Caitlin and Jamie. You'll never listen to this, but it's okay. It's okay. We still love you.
Do I even have Jamie's number?
I don't know, because I don't think Rachel has his number anymore either. They used to have each other's numbers.
I don't. I just have Caitlin's, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, so our baby Charlie was born, and it's a beautiful time for all. And now that I've disrupted the podcast,
It's okay. Text Caitlin, congratulations.
I wanted to see your reaction on the pod, and I was like, I bet they didn't post this on Facebook. I'm bad at Facebook. I didn't look.
If they did post it on Facebook,
I knew you would have seen it and you hadn't said anything.
No, I might not have because
okay.
I was at work all day, so like my amount of time on Facebook was like limited. I added my job on Facebook. That's about all I've been on Facebook today.
Yep. Well, there's a baby. There's a new baby in the world.
So I love
very exciting. So while we're in this very exciting time, can you please tell us a detrimental quote to our mental health for our spiritual guidance?
I mean, to be fair, it is a part 2. It's an afternoon.
What did we do last week? What day is it?
Today, that's a great question. We're on the end of episode 9 of season 1. So the thing people forget is how good it can feel when you finally set secrets free. Whether good or bad, at least they're out in the open, like it or not. And once your secrets are out in the open, you don't have to hide behind them anymore. The problem with secrets is, even when you think you're in control, you're not.
Facts.
Which, that was really depressing for the last...
For a second part?
Yeah, but it was also the season finale.
The first season only had 9 episodes?
The first season only had 9 episodes. I don't know if you remember the beginning. Grey's Anatomy was a mid-season replacement when it first got picked up, so it only had 9 episodes in season 1.
What did it replace?
I have no idea.
What a show, man. I feel bad for that show. They're like, oh, this show's going to come in and like, they're just going to mid-season. They're just closing us out. That sucks for them too. And they have like thousands of seasons.
Yeah.
What a show. Well,
Speaking of a show,
but unlike having 1,000 seasons, today we are talking about Hannibal, season 2, episode 5. It is Mukazuki. Mukazuki. It means sliced dish of seasonal sashimi.
Very lovely.
Which is unfortunately pretty accurate to this episode title.
Yeah, but also it was interesting because in this episode Hannibal was cracking shellfish, and I literally was like, can't hide a person in that.
Sure can.
Can't hide a person.
Sure can't.
Can't hide a person in a lobster shell.
Nope, you sure can't. But those are safe probably. So it aired March 28th of 2014.
Almost my birthday.
I know, not quite, but just a little after. It was rated, like I said, the same as last week, 9.2 out of 10. The number 1 song is Still Happy by Pharrell, as it will be for the rest of our lives. The number 1 movie is Noah, the one with Russell Crowe and Emma Watson.
I vaguely remember that happening. I did not watch it.
I never saw it. I didn't hear good reviews about it. Like,
no, neither.
Because, I don't know, Russell Crowe is a person that has had a great career. And then something happened.
Justice for Russell Crowe. Because I still to this day will never get behind the Russell Crowe Les Mis hate.
I never watched Les Mis.
I don't care that objectively it was a terrible performance. In my opinion, best part of the movie.
I believe that. I love Russell Crowe. I just think he ended up in these like subpar movies that like came out at some point. Because like I just watched when I was home a couple weeks ago. With my dad, there was some army movie which I did not care and I did not want to watch, but Russell Crowe was in it and he gave a really emotional performance and I thought it was really well done. It was a great cast. It was like Milo Ventimiglia, Chris Hemsworth, Russell Crowe. Like I don't even know what it's called. I have no idea. It's like a Black Ops movie. It was very slow. It was pretty boring, but they gave incredible performances, as you can imagine. Oh, maybe it was Liam Hemsworth. He was Liam, not Chris.
Okay.
But still, regardless, they're both great actors, so it's fine. Yeah, and then our number one book is Power Play by Danielle Steele.
Danielle Steele, I know her.
I know.
Not in real life.
Yeah.
I said that in a way that made it sound like I actually know her. It's just I don't read modern fiction.
Yeah.
So when I actually recognize the author, I go, oh, I know what's happening.
It's okay. Last night, Zach texted me and was sending me this video about Wendell Pierce talking about New Orleans.
Yeah.
And I just texted back, I know him. He was like, what? And I was like, no, I do.
You're like, no, like legitimately know him.
I know him, and I've talked to him multiple times about Louisiana because he's from there.
Yeah.
But it was funny. He was like, okay. So on this day, you have a Chevy Cruze. Am I right?
I sure do.
172,000 of them were recalled on this day.
Well, that's great because I have a 2014 Chevy Cruze.
I think it was through 2011. I think it was the 07 to 11 models, but it did happen in 2014.
Oh, okay, because I for sure have a 2014
Yeah,
Chevy
I didn't do a
Cruze.
lot of research. I did know yours was a 14, but it was for faulty front axle shafts.
Oh, my front axle's fine.
Yeah, yours seems fine. Your
My
car
front-
drives very well for 2014 especially.
Yeah.
So this is the year the Malaysia aircraft went missing. And I didn't note it in any of our on this day because we recorded an episode that came out on March 7th.
Yeah.
And it happened on March 8th. So by the time I recorded the next episode,
It was already not news
it was
anymore.
not in the news. And
Crazy.
so I didn't know that this was the year, even though we've talked about this a lot on this podcast.
Yeah, I literally watched a video like 2 days ago that was like things like clips from 2014 that didn't age well, and it was like one of them. The person was like, "Man, I think we should fly Malaysia Airways forever. That was such a great flight."
Oh, God bless. Well, this is 20 days later, and they've decided to shift their search 700 miles because that's how long it took them to realize that the speed that was going was cut way down because of whatever was happening. And so they were searching the wrong area for 20 days, which makes me understand a little bit more
Why it took them so long to do anything.
right. Why we were like, oh, it's just missing forever. No, you just didn't look in any of the right places for 20 days.
I mean,
and 20 days is a long time.
I mean, to be fair, they still didn't find it.
Right, but the ocean is deep.
The ocean is terrifying.
The ocean has a lot of deadly creatures in it, and it was over China, so even if it got taken, you're not finding that after 20 days. It's like the first 72 hours. Don't you know the rules?
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised anymore that we have not found it. I was very surprised until today. Also, I don't know if you remember when the woman pushed her husband off a cliff 8 days after their wedding.
No.
Okay, that also happened. So this couple got married. Story time. This couple got married and hunky-dory, everything seemed fine. They go on their honeymoon and they're up in the cliffs hiking and stuff, and she pushed him off of a cliff. And one of her excuses was that she forgot where they were and didn't realize how detrimental it was going to be, which is obviously a crazy excuse. This was 8 days after they were married, and today's the day she got sentenced to 30 years for murder. I am just here to bring you all the best news of the day. I didn't remember that.
About where we were. I don't know that I've ever known that story.
Yeah, it's a wild one.
I didn't think about where we were.
In 2014? Oh, you're saying what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was one of her defenses in the court. Obviously, it was not a good one. And last was... Oh, go ahead.
Hold on. I didn't think about where we were is what you say when you accidentally open a beer at church. Not when you push your husband off a cliff.
I don't know that I've ever accidentally opened a beer at church.
I haven't either. It just seems much more reasonable.
It is a much more reasonable
pushing my husband off a cliff.
I'm glad you think that. I do agree. That is a wild way to make that logical, but it is indeed logical.
Oh my god.
But yeah, so what a day. And last but certainly not least, thank you. I'm covered in hair. I brushed it before we recorded, so now you also probably have my hair on you somewhere.
Well, I always have my hair on.
L. Bryn Scott, who is a designer who committed suicide, was also had given her entire fortune over to Mick Jagger on this day because they were dating. And I had no idea. That story eluded me. That is much milder, I feel like, and much more like reasonable. But I had no idea. She left $9 million to Mick Jagger on this day.
Okay, but $9 million is what Mick Jagger wipes his ass with.
Right. So it's like a good cause.
Okay.
But $8 million was in her house. I just had no idea that he had like a partner that committed suicide and then left all of her money to him.
Wow.
So the more you know. So our director is Michael Reimer. Same these. Writers are Steve Lightfoot and Ayanna A. Floyd, who also goes by just Ayanna Floyd sometimes. But she was credited with the A in the middle of this one. And so she is known for Falling Skies. She was a co-producer of Private Practice. So I feel like I should have heard about her before today. The Best Man, The Final Chapters, which I don't know what that is. And then she's a co-executive producer of Hannibal. So she's also known for Hannibal. She served as the VP of the Organization of Black Screenwriters. And she has a master's from Columbia College of Chicago, which we drove past on when we were on one of our tours. And I was like, I wonder if that has relation to Columbia and New York. I bet it does. Didn't look it up.
Okay.
So, don't know. Our editor is Michael Dougherty. Yep. So, same. Our guest is Jonathan Tucker, who plays Matthew Brown. You don't know his name because they didn't say it in the episode, but he's the attendant.
Oh, I was like...
Yep.
To be honest, I was like, no one in this episode's a new character. Completely forgot about the attendant.
Yeah, the one big part, yeah. That one.
No. Full disclosure, we watched 2 Hannibal episodes, and both of them were so insanely wild that I don't remember what happened in which. So I'm going to be relying on Courtney a little bit.
I got you. And so he is known for The Ruins, The Virgin Suicides, Hostage, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
So he's got like big roles in random things, and then he's been like one-off in a lot of different stuff. He's also in the show called Perception that stars Eric McCormack as someone who's like helping out the police kind of in a monk-esque like way.
You know, I've vaguely heard of it. I've heard of it. I haven't seen any of it, but I like have vaguely heard of it.
So I haven't heard of it, and I was flabbergasted to learn about this show's existence today, and I really need to watch it.
Because it's Eric McCormack, and it's a TV procedural, so right up my alley.
His father is Paul Hayes Tucker, who is considered the authority on Claude Monet and French Impressionist art.
Love that.
Now that we're in the same room, do you see my handwriting? Do you see why sometimes I'm like, I don't know what that says?
I was just thinking that it's better than mine.
I think I could read that though. It's bigger.
It is bigger,
and it has all the letters in it. It looks like.
Yeah.
That's a little less, but yeah. Like mine doesn't. Mine doesn't always include all. Like Confided doesn't really have all the letters. It has a couple extra too. So also his I had to take some screenshots. He had a sex scene with Josh Lucas in The Deep End in 2001, which was considered his breakout role. And it was filmed on his 18th birthday to avoid legal implications.
Icky.
Yeah. I don't know how old Josh Lucas was because I honestly don't remember when that was. Let's see how old Josh Lucas is. He was born in 71, and what is our guy's name? Jonathan Tucker?
He was not born in 71.
No, I think he was 82. So 11 years apart. Not as bad as it could have been, but 18 to 27 is still, 29 is still pretty far apart.
I was just listening to a true crime podcast about this lady who went missing in Australia, and her boyfriend was 11 years her senior, and he definitely murdered her.
Is it the teacher?
No.
Oh.
He definitely.
Or teacher's pet is what I meant.
Oh, yeah, no, this one, he definitely murdered her. There's no proof, but he definitely murdered her. There's no other suspects, like, ever.
Yeah.
But also, she was crazy, and he had sex with her for the first time when she was 16. And so, but then...
Are you sure this is the same one covered in Teacher's Pet?
No, yeah, because she wasn't a teacher. And neither was he. No. In the one I'm talking about.
Oh,
I
thought you said she was a teacher at the beginning of the story.
No,
I heard it in my head.
No, he was 11 years her senior. It was just a guy. He picked her up at a bar and then had sex with her, but she was only 16, and in Australia the age of consent is 17. So then basically on her 17th birthday, she was like, "I'm going to tell everybody you slept with me when I was underage if you don't start dating me."
Wild.
And then she like blackmailed him for 5 years until he finally gave up and murdered her.
What a wild ride. What a wild ride. What podcast is this?
Case File?
Like, you've told me that before.
Yeah, I like it because the guy has a really soothing Australian accent when he reads the case files, and I almost fell asleep listening to it.
You should listen to Teacher's Pet if you haven't. It's a one-off story, but it's really good. And last but not least, Jonathan Tucker elected not to commit to Columbia University, even though he was offered early admission to pursue his acting career full-time.
Sucker.
Bless his heart. And like, he's done fine.
Yeah, no, I just feel bad. I just judge everyone who gives up college for acting.
Especially like a good college.
Mostly because acting didn't work out for me.
But also like, it's not like he ran away for the world. Like, he has a couple of big roles, but it's not like, it's not Brad Pitt. He's not Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
I don't know his name every day. So I probably would have gotten Columbia and then...
Right.
Yeah. So, we start with Hannibal making breakfast with seafood, as we alluded to. And Jack has come over to chat.
And thank him for
not letting
his wife.
Bella die, absolutely. And then we are flashing back a lot to Will also eating at the hospital at the same time. There's a little parallel there. And
this episode, I will say, even when it wasn't plot heavy, it had a lot of interesting visuals.
Yeah. And they're talking, so they keep talking about Bella's attempted suicide and everything. And at one point, Hannibal's just like, I'm a better friend than a therapist. And I looked at Mary Kate, because we're watching this together, and I was like, that's probably true. Like, unfortunately...
Which, the thing is, you said that it was probably unfortunately true, and I literally was like, the fuck you are?
But I think both are bad. I think he's bad at both.
Yeah.
But he's less detrimental as a friend. He's more detrimental as a therapist.
Is he, though?
I think so, because he can, like, manipulate more people.
Yeah, but... He literally specifically said he couldn't consider himself Will's therapist because he wanted to be Will's friend, and look how that's going.
That's true, I guess. That's true. But, my God, this man, he's...
I mean, his only friends in life are Will, Alana, and Jack.
I don't know if him and Jack are friends.
He thinks him and Jack are friends.
Does he?
That's why he said that he saved Bella, because Jack's his friend.
I think he's just making stuff up.
He has 3 friends, and he is lying to or murdering people for all of them.
Yeah. I hope Rachel's not a serial killer. She also has 3 friends that is a therapist. She's a good friend and a therapist, though, so...
I feel like she has more than 3 friends.
She has more than 3 friends. Just not a lot that she hangs out with.
She doesn't spend a lot of time with people, but she doesn't, like...
She's not a serial killer.
She's not a serial killer. Dan might be a serial killer.
Dan might be a serial killer. Rachel is not a serial killer.
Yeah.
We're going to just classify our friends as serial killers or non-serial killers.
Yeah, there's only 2 options.
Only 2 options. And so then we're back to our friend Freddie. Because Freddie is back. And she is going to visit something with Chilton.
Oh,
where did she go?
She went to the planetarium where
she went.
Yeah. She wasn't with Chilton. She went to the planetarium where Chilton got attacked.
Where Chilton got attacked. That was what my shorthand says. And so she went there and she was looking and she sees obviously something devastating. And
I knew immediately. What it was when she pulled her camera out. I literally grabbed Courtney. I
was like, I was hoping this would be played out a bit more, and it was not.
It wasn't. I knew it wasn't going to be, and I didn't really know, like, from proof. I just knew from last week when the shootout was happening in the dark, and I started crying that I knew Beverly was going to die. Dan was like, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So, like, he accidentally was like, yeah, she's dead.
Well, he just had a visceral reaction to your emotions. Like,
he was, like, trying to apologize to me that my guesses were correct.
Correct, yeah.
But
yeah.
he confirmed for me that she was in fact very dead.
Right. So Freddie naturally calls the FBI, and Jack arrives because...
Okay, but I will say this one moment, I actually, all the respect that I had lost for Freddie, she got like a tiny bit back because she told Jack to let someone else handle this.
Yeah, she was like, she's one of yours.
You can't go in there.
And of course Jack does not listen.
No.
Because he can't keep his hands out of things. And we go in there and we see that Beverly has been cut into slices.
That was one of the most fucked up things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And I'm concerned that she was also part of his breakfast that he's just had with Hannibal. So...
I don't know, though.
I don't know either.
I don't know, because it was shellfish.
And eggs, and there was a couple different things on the plate.
Yeah, but the only two meat-looking things on the plate were the lobster and the oyster.
Yes, that's true.
So, fingers crossed.
Yeah. And oyster is very distinct.
Yeah, and so
you can
is
tell
lobster.
If it's, yeah. You can tell if it's not one of those things.
Yeah.
And then we hit the credits. Because we're in for a wild ride. And so we go to the lab, and Jack is telling everyone what happened to Beverly, and then he also is telling, the class of people, the FBI agents.
Okay,
again.
that, like, horrible visual, like, crossover of him saying the message only once, but you seeing him saying it to everyone with Tweedledum and Tweedledummer, who I still can't remember their names.
Price and Zeller.
Those ones.
Uh-huh.
Them crying in the office when he told them separately from everybody else. That got me.
I know. It was rough. And then it doesn't get better because then he goes with Alana to tell Will about Beverly. And of course, Will knows. Like, he's like, as soon as he found out that Beverly didn't go to Jack, he's like, well, now she's dead. That was the next step. And Will says he wants to see her because he wants to...
Well, he doesn't explain why. He just says he wants to see her.
And he is bundled up in full Hannibal gear,
Yep.
like the movies. And they arrive at the planetarium.
And I already told Courtney this story, but I got really distracted watching that scene because yesterday one of my coworkers found a dolly in a hallway and literally goes, "What is a Hannibal Lecter cart doing here?" And I was like, this woman
Is my kind of people.
is my kind of person. Like, she's an educator standing in a school hallway and immediately sees a dolly, doesn't think about bookshelves or garbage totes, immediately Hannibal Lecter.
Or moving furniture in a house.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, because I immediately think usually of moving furniture in a house. Even though I couldn't tell you the last time I moved furniture in a house with a dolly.
The only time I regularly use a dolly is to create packages from the box office to backstage for the tour casts at Shea's.
The last time I regularly used dollies was when my parents owned the donut shop and I would like cart like Cokes and stuff across the room.
But so like you move like heavy packages at work or like furniture
Or serial killers.
Yeah, or serial killers.
Those are your options. So he's all decked out in the scare. And then Freddie is of course there and she's taking pictures of him for her blog, as she does. And it feels like a lot of work to put him in all of this gear because then they immediately go inside and immediately unwrap him.
Like I said, there was quite a few moments of this episode that had no plot but had really great visuals, but for like extended periods of time. Like, this was probably a 2 to 2.5 minute sequence of bundling Will up and then unbundling him.
And I get, like, last time he was put in a truck is when he, like, lost his mind and escaped and went and tried to kill Gideon and Hannibal and everything.
Yeah.
But he also was, like, massively in the weeds of encephalitis.
Yeah.
And he is much more in his right mind now. And so I guess they were concerned, but also, like...
But also the fact that the entire time he was unbundling him, Jack had a loaded gun in his hand.
Right. Which is fine. Like, I guess you could all carry loaded guns, whatever, but... Yeah.
But, like, not ready to shoot. Not in your hand while you're taking somebody's mask off.
Yeah. And so it's him and Jack, and he sees Beverly, and he says that he has to interpret the evidence. That's what he sees her, like, in his mind, and she
tells him, like,
to interpret the evidence.
Don't let your emotions be a part of this.
Yeah. And so he does. We get a rewind, and you see that he is strangling her while looking in her eyes, and he takes her knife and he's like he's like, I recognize her and she recognizes me.
Yeah.
And then once he's killed her, he freezes her body to preserve it, and then starts pulling apart the layers in a machine, just like, and he says that whoever did this pulled apart the layers of Beverly like she would do to
a crime scene.
interpret a crime scene.
Yeah.
And there is no evidence, but he knows that she found something that has now been taken from her.
Yeah.
And then he's like, it's the Ripper and it's the copycat, and they are the same killer.
Person, yeah.
Like, there is no question. Which, granted, I think he already didn't have a question of that, but I don't think he's really said it out loud to anyone else yet. Before now. And so that's when he asked Jack where he was last night. And he was like, I, sent her to come see you
and tell you the evidence she found.
Right. And he's like, I was at the hospital with Bella.
Yeah.
And so he's like, great. So she didn't find you, and so she just went looking for evidence by herself, which is what happened. And then, and so he tells Jack he has to make his own connection. He was like, why do you make this connection? And so he's like, you have to do it. He was like, Beverly made her connection, you have to make your connection.
Which, I get it, because no one is listening to Will, and so he's like, at this point, he needs to stop saying things that make him seem crazy and just, like, lay the evidence out. But, like, Jack is literally like, what do you see? And he's like, can't tell you.
Yeah, well, like, anything... well, that's also the thing, is, like, anything that they finally believed in is something they found out on their own. Yeah. Like, it's not been because Will has said it or anyone else has said it.
Yeah.
And so then Jack's like, well, why did I bring you here if you weren't going to tell me? And he just says that he was brought there to say goodbye.
I can't. I love Beverly.
Me too. So then we go to Will and Chilton. And Will knows that Chilton has talked to Hannibal.
Well, yeah.
Like, he explicitly told him not to. And it turns out that Chilton's saying he knows more, and, like, he's like, yeah, it's just a peek into it. Like, I'm not, like, telling him anything really. And it's like, okay, liar, but okay. And then Will basically tells him that he doesn't know anything. He's like, but Gideon does. He's like, you think you know stuff about Hannibal, you think you know stuff, like, about me, but really you don't. Gideon does. We need him. And he's like, well, what's what do I get if I bring you Gideon? And he's like, you get to solve the Ripper case and get credited with the find. And so, naturally, that's all Chilton wants and has ever wanted in his life. So then we go back to the lab, and Jack is telling Price and Zeller that they don't have to be the ones to analyze Beverly. They're like, this is too much for you guys. We can, outsource this, basically. But they're like, no, we want to do this right.
Beverly wouldn't have backed away from it.
Yeah, they're like, Beverly would have done this, so we feel like we need to do it for her.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about it, and it turns out that her kidney has been removed, but that James Gray, the man who's in the mural, his kidney was sewed up inside of her to replace her kidney. So.
Which is what she had in her hand when Hannibal caught her, was his kidney from the fridge. That was the evidence she found.
Right. So, that's good. So we go to Hannibal, who's making dinner, and part of his dinner, he has created a pastry in the shape of a mask from, obviously, Silence of the Lambs.
And he just laughed while he ate it, and I wanted to fucking stab him in the eyeball.
Right. And it was, like, a quick scene, so, like, if you didn't see it, you missed it. Like, I was like, okay, did you see that?
And I was like, yes, dog.
She's like, yeah.
I got it.
But yeah, so then we go to Will and Gideon. And I am, like, Gideon's gonna die. Like, pretty soon. And we knew that, like, in this episode, we're like, he's gonna die soon because he's a loose thread. Like, it's the only one left that actually knows anything about Hannibal other than Will. So, Beverly's gone. Next up is Gideon, I think. And so Gideon says he looks like the boy next door. And he's like, you got here, the boy next door, like, you're doing all these things. And Will's like, you can call me Will. We're, like, on the same social level now.
He said, yeah, we're part of the same social strata.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
And I was like, that's rough.
Yeah.
But okay. And then Will starts telling him he remembers that night. And he was like, this whole time, like, I've started, like, thinking over, I remember the night where I was sent to kill you. Hannibal sent me to kill you. You were there, and everyone tried to convince me you weren't. And Gideon's like, if I'm your evidence, then you're in trouble.
Yeah. He was like, you have no case if your evidence is me.
Yeah, he's like, you can't, like, I'm terrible evidence, basically. He's like, your only option now is to kill him. Like, you have no other option. And so then Hannibal and Chilton are chatting, as they do, and Hannibal asks him why he brought Gideon back. He's like, I don't know why you brought him back here, like, obviously. Yeah. And Chilton says that he's,
oh, he's part of Will's therapy.
Yeah, he's part of Will's therapy, and he says he's picking up, with Will and kind of fixing everything that Hannibal did wrong. And he's like, I'm overcorrecting.
Yeah, he was like, you have a patient who did all these things and has an entire night that he has no memory of. Mm-hmm. So I'm bringing back the one person who could refresh his memory.
Right. I think that's his patients. He's picking up Hannibal's patients. I think that's what that's supposed to say.
If it is, that is, wild.
Isn't it, though? This is why I stop a lot when I'm reading my notes. Because I'm like, that's not even a word, and I don't know which one it's supposed to be. But yeah, so he's picking up his patients, and he's like kind of overcoming them, and Hannibal just says he wants to interview Gideon. He's like, I want to talk to him. Of course he does. So,
I understand that he's, like, respected, but in terms of, like, security, and how psychiatric prisons, because you have to remember, this is not just like a mental hospital. Both of these men are incarcerated.
Right.
It's a psychiatric prison and the FBI. And Hannibal just says, hey, can I see that? And they all fucking give it to him.
Because he's not actually, like, employed with the FBI.
He's employed just by no one.
He's just trusted by some of the people at the FBI. Like, he got brought in because of Alana.
He's like, he's just a guy in a nice suit who talks well, and people do whatever he wants.
Yeah, I mean, that's the least surprising part of it. But, yeah. It's wild. It's wild.
If you, I mean, that eye roll I just gave might have been audible, but if you are only listening to this, I am not a fan of that.
Man who wears suits to get away with stuff? Yeah, same. Yeah, so Hannibal goes to talk to Gideon, and Gideon pretends he's never met Hannibal, and Hannibal also pretends he's never met Gideon.
It was insane.
It was insane. And I was like, this is the weirdest thing. And, like, I mean, Chilton's listening in, and of course Gideon knows that. Hannibal probably knows that.
Oh, no, they both definitely know. Yeah. But it was also, like, the strangest, like, rehearsed thing I've ever seen.
It was very strange. It made me think when I walked in your door, and Brie was like, hi, I'm Brie, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, my sister did do that. She pretended she had no idea who Courtney was.
And I was like, yeah! But yeah, that's
to be fair, that was because she was making fun of me, because for my entire party weekend, anytime a new person showed up, I greeted them and then just pretended everybody there should already know who they were. For the whole weekend.
You did do that indeed. Yeah, that's 100% true. But I have known Brie now for 2.5 years, 2 years, something like that. Yeah. No, so that was fine. And then so he's telling. So then they start talking, and he's like, "So you were Will's therapist?" And he's like, "Because he's like, I'm a therapist. I do these things." And he's like, "If Will is your patient, like, he's not a very good advertisement for you. Like, it's not gone well." And then he starts telling him that Chilton wants to be him, and he's like, "Chilton's always wanted to be you. Like, you have this status that he doesn't in this way with people." Like, and so they're having a very productive conversation. And then we go to Hannibal and Freddie. And Freddie's taking pictures of Hannibal coming out of the hospital from his visit with Gideon. And we learn that she's there to interview Will at his request. And I was like,
I kind of loved it. Like, I also hated it, but I kind of loved it.
Here's the thing. Like, we have gone from, like, in the last, 1.5 episodes, we have really slipped into manipulative Will. And, for the best reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Not for bad reasons yet. I'm not sure they're not going to come.
Right.
But as of now, we're in, like, peak manipulative.
It's just, here's the thing. If you being honest and kind is not getting you anywhere and people are dying and you have to become unhinged for anyone to listen to you,
you gotta do it.
You gotta do it. I'm here for chaotic good.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That is all it is.
I mean, we need to make a chart.
They have.
Oh, they have? I want to make it ourselves.
If you're on Reddit, the Hannibal TV Reddit, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
And they're still doing, like, they haven't completed it yet. So, like, each week they were doing a new one.
Oh, they do that with the Bates Motel. I've been voting on all the ones on the Bates thing.
And so they've been doing it with Hannibal, and I was like, I want to do this, but also, like, there was a character I'd never heard of, and so I was like,
so you wanted to wait?
Yeah, I think Beverly was marked as chaotic good.
No.
She is not it, or maybe she was. I don't remember, but she was recently in there, and I was like,
no, I think Beverly is the most true neutral on the show.
Yeah, she is. She's so even kill, and
and she and there's no like. I mean, the first episode I hated her, and then by the end I loved her because it's never been about
emotions.
Good or bad. It is just factual. She is the most true neutral.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we go to Will and Freddie, and Will immediately starts telling her about his admirer, and he's like, "This has been happening. There's someone who's killed these people, and they're trying to get to me." And he's like, "And I need to get to them." And she's like, "Okay." So do you want to catch him or do you want to contact him? And he's like, I need to have an open, like, pathway with him. And she's like, great, let's do this.
She's basically like, let's set up your date at your serial killer dating profile.
She's like, first of all, what's in it for me? She was like, I want exclusive rights to your story. And he's like, absolutely.
I think he's genuinely thinking, I'm going to be dead before there's a story.
Right, like, one of us is going to be dead before that happens.
Right.
So who's to say? Like, sure, why not?
And to be honest, if he's able to accomplish everything he wants and get everything out there,
she deserves it.
Who cares what the story is?
Right.
No one's gonna believe it anyway.
Absolutely. So, so he says okay. And then we go to Hannibal, who is watching Freddie's story that Will has put out, asking for info and the contact of this new person. And then we go back to Will because he gets an immediate response. So, our attendant, who just walks up to him, who we've seen throughout this episode but haven't really seen in the others, just kind of being around, he asks if Will wants a book. And he's like, nope, I have my imagination. And he's like, oh, well, you're, like, really smart, and you, like, think these things through, so I thought you might want to, like, read. And then we learned that he was previously instituted at this hospital. And so he is not only a guard that was just hired there, he is a guard that was hired from within. Obviously, they've done a great job with him. And we learned that he also worked with Chilton, which is why he got hired. So he's the one who mic'd up this whole jail cell area so that Chilton could eavesdrop. And we also learned that he killed the bailiff, but not the judge.
Yeah, because the judge was obviously... But I told you, the bailiff was not Hannibal. Nothing about that was right.
And that's true. It was him.
And here's the thing. I knew the bailiff wasn't Hannibal. I knew nothing about that. It felt too tacky. It wasn't showy enough. It wasn't spectacular enough. It wasn't deliberate enough.
Yeah, it wasn't clean enough.
But... despite knowing that, this whole attendant story came so far out of left field. I was very... And what they ended up doing with it was fine, and I got it. But when he started telling Will that he killed him, I was like...
what is he gonna...
What is this gonna be? I was like, wait, what show am I watching?
Yeah, it felt very out of left field.
I didn't love it.
I didn't love it when it started, but I liked it fine when it ended.
Yeah.
But I was very thrown off. But also, like, when it comes to, like, was this Hannibal or not, I just always assume it's Hannibal because he does the copycat stuff, because he does stuff to specifically put you off of him.
Even the copycat stuff he's done is still, it never felt right.
And that's totally fair. That's totally fair. And that made a lot of sense. I just blame Hannibal every time. Yeah. That's just how it goes. So he's talking.
I mean, listen, there have been things that I've been very right about and things that you've been very right about, and it goes back and forth because, like, I was sure the bailiff wasn't Hannibal. You were not.
Right.
I was sure Beverly was going to be really dead. You were not. But then there are other things
to come,
and smaller things. But there are other things
yeah.
that you've been like, no, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Next week's a big episode, friends. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
So they're talking about all of this, and he just, like, lets Will out of his cell to just, like, wander for a bit. And then he goes back, and he starts talking about how they're hawks, and how they, like, are so smart, and they get their prey, and
Oh, no, he says, did he say hawks or did he say falcons?
He said hawks, because then Will said hawks are solitary creatures.
Okay.
And then I wanted to ask you about your bird knowledge.
That's
my next note.
Yes, they are. That's most prey birds like that don't live in groups because then they have to compete for food.
Mm-hmm.
So like eagles, hawks, falcons, vultures. Vultures are a little bit different because they're carrion and they do tend to gather. But the others, like hawks, falcons, eagles, those ones are all solitary hunting birds that, like, mate and then go their separate ways.
So if they work together, would they take over the world? Because that's basically what this attendant said.
Well, they still don't have opposable thumbs.
Sure. Yeah, so like not maybe like our world, but like their world.
No, I mean, if two hawks, like, worked together, the biggest problem with that is that their work together would unbalance the ecosystem in a way where then once they finished dominating that particular moment, there would not be future food.
Sure. Yeah. That makes sense.
So, I mean, I guess they could just, like, keep moving, but then eventually they'd fly somewhere that had no food or place for them to live. Because between deforestation and, other habitat issues causing prey animals to not be there, it would not work out very well.
Right, which is why Will said that they couldn't work together.
Yes. Two hawks working together would only be very successful for a very short amount of time.
Yes. And so of course he asks him to kill Hannibal. He's like, this is what I want you to do. We're gonna work together. And off he goes. No questions asked. But
I wish I had a friend like that.
I wish you had a friend like that too. Because it sure isn't me. That feels like a lot of work. There's a lot of things that you could ask me. I'd be like, yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. And then there are things that I'm like, that's a lot of work.
It's really the no questions asked part. I think that
I do ask a lot of questions.
You ask a lot of questions. I do have some friends that I was like, hey, to save my life, you need to murder that person. They would find a way to do it, but there would be contingencies and questions.
And about 75 questions.
Yeah. No. I think the only person who would murder for me, no questions asked, is my dad.
Say Dan. Oh.
No.
Dan the serial killer.
Dan the serial killer. No, Dan won't even, like, have someone fake a parking ticket for him. He is the whole thing about him being a serial killer is only funny because he's so incapable of doing anything negative any of the time. He, like, won't even send a passive aggressive text without running it by me first. So, like, if he needed to be the one to kill somebody for me, his love for me says yes, his moral compass says not a chance. And I think his moral compass would win.
I think you're probably right.
My dad, on the other hand, would murder someone if it meant saving my life. 150%.
I'm not going to say it in recording, but I bet I could do it if I tried. If it was to save your life.
Yeah.
I would, as I've mentioned, ask 75 questions.
Yeah.
But that's just if you talk to me.
If the stakes are high enough, I have people that I think could do it.
Right.
I just don't think Dan is the one.
I don't think Dan is the one. He's too soft. Which is great. It's great. But also true. So then we go back to Will's cell, and he's like having this feeling like antlers are coming out of his back.
Okay, the antlers visual was too much for me.
But here's the thing, it's such a good symbolism.
It is, but I hate it.
Because it shows how deep he's getting into the, like, are you becoming the deer?
Yeah.
Are you becoming the one that's gonna be a murderer? Like, who's to say?
I do like, we didn't talk about this when it happened, but when he was looking at Beverly and doing the rewind, I do like that the deer that he's picturing has morphed from the physical animal deer to the person.
Deer,
I do really, really like that. I don't like it sprouting out of his back.
Yeah, because it does show that he's kind of coming more to his senses by making it a person too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't like it visually because it upsets me.
Yeah.
But I like it a lot for symbolism reasons.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
And then Alana comes to talk to him about Freddie because she's like, why on earth are you giving Freddie your story? And he's like, because she's listening to me and no one else in the entire world is.
Because she's hot and blonde and you're a bitch. Not blonde, redheaded.
I was like, she's for
not
sure
blonde.
not
She's
blonde.
not blonde. No. No, she's a hot ginger and you're a bitch.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's obviously not what he
That
said,
is
and that's not at all his actual reasoning.
Yeah.
I'm just mad at mad at Alana.
Yeah, which is fine. That's fine. So we also learn he explicitly says he's taking all the blame for Beverly.
Yeah.
He's like, I told her to do this. I shouldn't have like said it this way. Like it's all my fault that she's dead.
Yeah.
And
which is how he feels about
every
Abigail.
person that's died.
It's how he feels about Georgia. It's how he feels about Abigail. All of the people whose death is being blamed on him.
He does feel
he's
like
the
it's
one
his fault.
blaming himself,
right.
Which isn't helping his case.
It is not. Yeah. So Alana's like, Will, what have you done? Because she knows about what Gideon has said or whatever. And he's like, just what I had to do. And we know that's true, but she is panicked. So she's leaving. Oh, no, this is when she's leaving and she sees them moving Gideon. And so this is the first time she realizes Gideon's been moved back.
Yeah.
And as she sees them, Chilton is telling her that she's catnip for killers, which is an accurate but unfortunate phrase.
It is, but the difference is catnip didn't ask for it. This bitch did.
That is, oh my god, the truest statement ever been said in the podcast.
Don't blame the victim.
Okay, but so far she has not been a victim.
So far she
has just caused chaos. That's all she's done is cause problems. And she has not been a victim.
No.
So, if she dies, we'll say we're sad she died.
I understand not blaming the victim, but when the victim is squeaky froms, you blame her a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. And also, Chilton says that that Gideon had, like, he couldn't talk to any of the other patients, so he had to bring Gideon back in because Gideon had pulled all the tongues out of all the other patients that Hannibal knew. And she says, he pulled more than that out of you. And I was like, that is such a sick burn. That, like, but also, I hate Chilton, so whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is. So then we go over to Gideon and Alana. And he knows that someone wanted him to kill her, so Will would kill him. So he understands this dichotomy.
Yes.
And she says, Will isn't the Ripper. Obviously she doesn't believe that, but she does say that. And Gideon just says, not yet. And he tells her about the guard, and basically tells her about the guard, not quite that explicitly.
Yeah.
And that she should save Will before he becomes a murderer.
Yeah. Because so far, Will has not actually been in charge of, responsible to blame for any of these murders.
Yes.
But he then did just explicitly tell someone to kill someone.
Hire a hitman.
Yeah.
So then Hannibal and the guard are swimming, and he swims up to the edge, Hannibal, and the guard just, like, shoots him with a dart, and he goes under.
Here's the thing. While I do like where it ended up going with this episode, that image of Hannibal sinking under the water, I wanted that to be the end of the episode.
That would have made a lot of sense, but at the same time, like I said while we were watching it, I was like, this would have been the most anticlimactic. This would have been a terrible storyline to write in if this is what happened.
This is how Hannibal died, and there's a season and a half left.
Yeah, I was like, this would be such a terrible, like, way to go. Or even way to, like, disable him, I guess, like, for a long period.
Yeah.
Because it's just too easy. Also, you could have just let him sink. But that's not how serial killers' brains work, so that's not what happened. And we go to Lana and Jack, who are now searching for Hannibal, because they're now alarmed by what Gideon has told Alana. And Will starts getting this visual where he's watching water droplets turn into blood in his sink. And whenever you're like, we switch to the next scene, the visual of where the drain and the sink lines up over his face looks like the Hannibal mask.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really well done visual.
It was really good, yeah.
It was crazy. So we're at the garden Hannibal again. And he has hung Hannibal up to bleed out. And he has him hung like a crucifix and on top of a bucket. And so he tells him, he's like, you could kick the bucket to die faster, or you can bleed out.
But before he says that, what he says, first of all, he has his wrists slit so that he's bleeding out of his arms. But he says, at least Judas had the decency to hang himself.
That's true.
But you weren't going to do that, so I have to help you.
Yeah, like
I have like goosebumps. The idea of Will and Hannibal as Jesus and Judas, just
so crazy.
That is candy. That is,
yeah.
Oh my God. The writing on this show. But just the idea that not only is Hannibal a killer, Hannibal is
the killer.
He's the betrayer. Like, that is what the only thing. If you read the scriptures, if you read the Gospels, prior to Judas betraying Jesus, Judas is actually one of the most...
He's like his right-hand man.
Right. He is like one of the most kind and like forward-thinking of the disciples. And then he just gets carried away. And the idea that Hannibal not only is what he's doing wrong on the grand scale of it, but that he took the only good in his life of Will and stabbed him in the back. Just... It's painful for Hannibal physically and emotionally because of everything he already said to his therapist about his relationship with Will and where he's at now. Mm-hmm. Oh!
It's insanity. It's crazy.
I could write a paper on just that line.
I'd like you to.
I don't have time. But
I understand. Maybe I will.
Okay.
But, so he has him on the bucket, and he starts telling him, he's like, this is where the term kick the bucket comes from, is hanging people. And I was like, that's nice.
That is true also.
It is true, but it's unfortunate. And so he tells him that Will asked for this and was a killer by proxy.
Yeah.
He's like, this was a direct request, so this is what's happening. And so then he starts asking him questions, and he's like, it's okay, you don't have to answer. I'm going to just keep asking you yes or no questions, and I can tell by how your pupils dilate what the answer is. And so he asked him if he killed the judge, and he asked him if he's the Ripper, and then he asked him a very elaborate question that's not yes or no.
Yeah. But it's because he already got his yeses.
Right, he already got the yeses he needed. And then at that moment, Jack and Alana arrive at the pool, and he's still talking, and he says, I wonder what they'll call me. He says, the Iroquois used to eat others to take their strength, and he's like, so maybe I can take over your legacy. And like, God, if you ever said anything that was more helpful to Hannibal.
He said, only if you eat me.
Yeah. And oh my God. So, and then at this moment is when Jack walks in, and Hannibal yells that the attendant has a gun, and Jack just shoots him. But as he's going down, he kicks the bucket out from under Hannibal, and Jack charges over and holds on to him while they call the ambulance. And then we go back to Will, who has a sink of blood that is just flowing over. And that is the end of this episode.
Also, just this
What is that?
This is a map of where the Iroquois people are.
I thought you were showing me a storm.
No, this is a map of where the Iroquois nations lived.
So here.
Yeah. Which is why the Iroquois Confederacy, which the actual name for them is the Haudenosaunee. But that's why.
That's the one I've heard you say.
Yes, I've talked about the Haudenosaunee before. But that's why when he was like the Iroquois warriors, and I was like, yep.
Yeah.
I was like, that's true. That one, I can fact check that one now. It's true.
Check. Yeah.
Not in recent times.
So what do you think?
A lot of my thoughts are clouded by having seen the next episode already.
Sure.
But I will say after I watched this episode, I did have to take a few minutes.
Yeah.
I just couldn't think at all.
Fair.
I will never get over that image of Beverly.
I know, it was a depiction that was made by another artist, but it was used for animals, and I meant to write it down and I didn't. So, I don't remember the artist's name, but that's what it was being based off of.
Well, but the crazy thing was when they showed it, they just showed her in the glass box, and then when the camera turned, I almost fell off the couch.
I know. Yeah, it was a wild scene. So, how do you think Hannibal's gonna play this in his favor?
Fuck that guy.
Do you think it's gonna work when he tries to blame everything on the guard?
No.
No? I don't think so either.
I don't think so. I think it's fairly obvious that that guy was too unhinged to have actually been the Ripper the whole time.
Okay. Oh. It's pretty clear that Hannibal is also insane and no one's
unhinged and psychotic psychopathic are not the same thing.
Yeah. But I think this is what Hannibal's going to try and blame next, because he can't blame Will anymore. He just can't. There's just nothing left to blame Will.
Yeah.
But, like, who's he going to blame now? Well, I think I know who he might blame now, but that's for another discussion. Do you have any other predictions or feelings about this episode? No? Who do you want to punch in the face then?
Gideon?
Mm-hmm.
Because he ruined everything.
He did. Yeah. So I also was going to say Gideon because he ruined everything. But I guess if I have to say someone else, I'm going to go with, I guess the attendant for just being such a moron.
Yeah.
Like,
that's totally
he's just
valid.
such a moron. So who's your MVP?
My MVP is Freddy.
Yeah, that's fair. My MVP is also Gideon.
Good.
Because while he did ruin everything,
yeah,
he also is the reason that Will is not a killer.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because without Gideon, Will would have ended up being a killer.
But then Hannibal would be dead.
Yes, but then Will would have never found, like, he would have never been pardoned or anything. Like,
I think Will could have lived with that.
I don't know that he could have lived in jail for the rest of his life and been blamed for these crimes, and he has no way to prove it.
But no one else will die now.
That's true too.
And once Hannibal's dead, and
except maybe Will.
Well, yeah, but once Hannibal's dead, they actually go to his house and find all the stuff that Beverly found.
Unless he's already moved it, because Beverly found it and he thinks the FBI is getting too close.
I think he's too full of himself.
I think so too. But after this, I don't know that he is. This may have set him off and been like, somebody could have gotten to me. Who's to say they can't?
I don't know. I think he has the same fatal flaw that every other psychotic serial killer has, where they think they're smarter than everyone else.
Mm-hmm. That is for sure.
They think they'll never get caught.
He just kills everyone that gets in the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I don't have any real trivia for you this episode. Okay. I'm sorry. Oh yeah. So if you have any thoughts or feelings, I was like, how do we end this? It's been so long.
Yeah.
You can email us, deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we'll see you on Sunday for Sci-Fi Sunday.
Bye.